Good morning, you guys. Today is the first of my 4 night shifts in a level 1 trauma center. Come to work with me.
That perfect match, ain't no catch. You and I will make it last. Place your bet on me and everything will be alright.
So it's actually not morning. I work night shift, as I already said. It is 1 p.m. I just woke up. I really try the day before my night shifts to stay up late. So last night I stayed up till about 2 a.m., slept in today, so that way I'm at least starting on my night shift schedule. But I literally just woke up and grabbed the camera, so let me go make my bed.
You say you don't wanna get in trouble, that you doing fine cause you got me. I don't wanna break your little bubble, but you gotta wake up to reality. Cause I can see in your eyes, your head is full of dreams. Tears are a proof of failure. You just gotta let them flow without judge. There's so many ways to be happy.
So, made my bed. I like to start off the day with water just because at work I feel like I never drink enough, so I at least try to show up to work hydrated. And I take creatine every day because, you know, trying to put on a little muscle. But if you cannot tell, my apartment kitchen is absolutely filthy. Last night Torrin and I meal prepped. He cooked a meal and I cooked a meal. And he goes to bed really early because he gets up and goes to work super early. He works the complete opposite schedule of me. And I was just lazy last night and didn't clean up after myself. So we need to clean this kitchen.
Took a bite, and now I'm filled up. I don't know where you are tonight. Cause you're right, I've been starving and now I don't know what to do tonight. But I've been feeling like you're pretty easy to like. When your body is closer to mine, you got me feeling like there's no one other than you who can make me lose my mind. You start me up like no one has ever could. You fuel my fire. What are the odds we end up loving it? Spending every minute together. I found it quite hard, quite lovely. You start me up like no one has ever could. You fuel my fire.
So it is, oh my gosh. So it's a little bit after 2. I have been awake for a little over an hour now, and I am gonna get some editing done. I'm currently sitting on 3 YouTube videos. I know I haven't been the most consistent YouTuber, but I always eventually catch up. So this video should already be up by the time you're watching this. It's my birthday vlog. There's no like ER tech content in it, but if you just like me and you want more of my content, you should go watch that video. So I'm gonna do a solid, just like 45-minute focused editing block, and then we're gonna head to the gym.
I took a bite, and now I need more. I don't know how to make this right. Cause you're right, yeah, you're right. We are going too fast, but no, I don't know how to stop. But I've been feeling like you're pretty easy to like. When your body is closer to mine, you got me feeling like there's no one other than you who can make me lose my mind.
It is 3:30. I'm finally out of pajamas. I have my gym fit on, drinking my pre-workout, and I match my pre. How cute is that? I'm gonna head off to the gym. Not going to bring you guys to the gym during this vlog. I'm gonna make a whole separate series on how I work out and work night shift because there is a strategy to it. And once you have the strategy down, you're good to go. But that'll be a whole different vlog. This is all about working in a trauma center. So let's talk trauma when I get back. Hopefully you guys can hear me over the air conditioner, but after the gym, I had to shower super quick. I actually washed my hair, which normally like I wouldn't do a full hair wash when I didn't have a lot of time, but you guys, it was so gross. And I was like, I need to start these shifts like clean. So washed my hair, packed my lunch, It's still a little wet, but we are ready to go. So I figured we would have a little chit chat on my way to work, talk about the difference between traumas and medical. So I work in a level 1 trauma center, and we classify patients by, oh dear, it is not a Casey Smith vlog unless y'all go flying at least once. We classify patients by either making them a trauma or a medical patient. So what does that mean? A trauma is a patient that has an acute injury of some kind. Like, issues are caused by an injury, and that injury is causing like the damage and the different pathophysiology. Where a medical patient is someone who is affected by some sort of disease or illness, and that is what is causing their physiological issues. So for example, like someone who falls down, hits their head, someone who falls off a bike. Right now it's summer, so I live in the Midwest, a ton of ATV accidents. I'm also really close to Lake of the Ozarks, so we see a ton of boating accidents. All those things would be considered traumas. Now, what's something that's medical? Like someone who has shortness of breath because they have COVID, that's medical. It's kind of over, but like kids who are affected by RSV, that's medical. If you have a CHF patient who's short of breath, again, that's a medical patient. Now, it can get kind of hairy, and there can be like gray areas, right? So you can have a patient. So like, for example, I literally had a patient who was found down at the bottom of a stairwell. They had no obvious injuries that EMS reported. We also could find no obvious injuries, but they were extremely hypotensive and they were unresponsive, so they could not tell us what had happened. So that's one of those situations where it's like, what's causing their hypotension? Are they having an internal bleed somewhere? Or is this a medical issue and they are just a hypotensive patient? Are they septic? Like, what the heck is going on? So sometimes you have to play like investigator. My trauma center, we classify traumas on a 1 to 3 acuity. I want you to think level 1, you are important. A level 1 trauma is the most critical trauma. So a patient who is a level 1 trauma, that means that if we do not intervene right now, you could potentially lose your life. That's level 1. Level 2 is that life or limb is at risk. We still need to intervene urgently, but you are not as critical as a level 1. You can wait a second, but not too much longer than that. And then a level 3 patient is someone who, like, vital signs are maybe a little out of whack, or they have an injury that indicates a possibly dangerous pathophysiology, something like that. You're somewhat stable as a level 3, but we do have the ability, because sometimes patients obviously can decline and they can change. So we are always able to upclass someone, right? So like, let's say you came in as a level 3. Well, all of a sudden we start treating you and you start decompensating. Well, then we can upclass you as seen appropriately depending on your condition. So that was a quick little trauma rundown. How much time do I have before I have to run into work? Okay, I've got like 2 minutes. So I hopefully that all made sense. I'll continue to go over the trauma stuff with you guys. Like I said, this is only shift number 1, and I'm gonna record all 4 of my shifts I'm working. So this is like little trauma This is bad. I can't even speak, and I am caffeinated. This is like a little trauma introductory little taste of trauma. So I'm gonna head into work, and hopefully I'll have some interesting patients to tell you guys about. I'm filming me eating this muffin on 2 different cameras right now. because I'm also filming for TikTok. Let me get another bite in and then we'll talk. So, hello guys. The last time I talked to you, we were driving to work. I'm now clean in my pajamas. It's about 12 and a half hours later. So, my shift went really well. I was actually up in the ED observation unit. So what that means is that these are patients who were not quite comfortable sending home and discharging, but don't quite meet admission status. So they just stay for a 24-hour observation period. And then we decide if they're safe to discharge home or not, or they actually need to be admitted. Actually, we had a patient, really glad we decided to do ED obs with this patient. They came in for diabetes complications and they actually became acidotic while in the obs unit and they had to be admitted. And then I had another patient who actually had a humeral head fracture because they had fallen. So they were admitted for pain control. So that patient was a trauma. So while we're on the topic of traumas, I already kind of told you about trauma classifications. Let's kind of delve in a little bit deeper and let's talk about like what is a tech's role in a trauma. A class 1 trauma, you get all the people. You get an acute care surgery team, you get an ER attending, and an ER resident, you get respiratory therapy. Literally all the people show up for a class 1 trauma. Class 2 traumas, you still get the acute care surgery, but you don't get the attending. You get an ER attending and you get an ER resident. I believe respiratory therapy does not come for a class 2 trauma unless like they're already intubated or something like that, which if they're intubated in the field, you're a class 1. So yeah, and then a class 3 trauma just gets ER resident, ER attending, and if those providers decide you need to be classed up, then the people show up accordingly. So what is a tech's role? So if a patient comes by helicopter, we help the flight crew offload, and then we help transfer patient from the flight stretcher to the ER stretcher, cut the clothes off, and then we literally just kind of get out of the way, and then you're basically like the runner, because traumas go into what's called our resuscitation or our trauma bay, as I'm sure people say all the time on like all the medical shows, the trauma bay, the trauma bay. So I'll put a picture up of what like a typical trauma bay looks like. It's usually a big room with lots of carts filled with various supplies we might need. And then there's like curtains that allow for privacy, but the curtains are nice because depending on how busy you are, you can put quite a few patients in those bays. Yeah, so then basically your job is to be like the runner, because the docs and the nurses will be needing things and they necessarily can't leave the bedside. And especially being a tech, like we stock all of those drawers and they don't quite know where stuff is. So you're able to just kind of get it for them and stuff like that. As far as like patient care at my hospital, the techs definitely take more of like a back seat, just because these patients are so critical that they require like RN, MDs, PAs. But if we have the opportunity, it is really nice because I do work at a teaching hospital and we are able to watch and learn, which is super, super great. So on some of the less critical patients, like a class 1 or a class 2, where there's already not so many people by the bedside, because that's also another reason as a tech you don't do a lot, is there's already a full team of people around this person and they don't need like an extra body. Where like in a class 3 trauma, you can do a lot more. So in a class 3 trauma, there's usually just the nurse, the ER resident, and the ER attending. So I usually am helping transfer patient from EMS stretcher to the bed, and then I usually hook the patient up to the vitals monitor. That way the nurse can focus on getting a report, finding access, getting labs, stuff like that. And then what? Oh yeah, for a class 3 trauma, you can help hold C-spine. Of course, if this is all like, if your hospital allows you to do this, if this is within your scope of practice, and whatnot, like if we log roll the patient or if they need like C-spine precautions. But yeah, you just get to do a little bit more with the patient when they're lower acuity because there aren't so many people there. Hope that was a good little trauma talk. This is also after my shift, so I have no idea if anything I told you made sense. Hopefully it did. We have 3 more shifts to go. Just smashed this entire muffin, and now it's time to go to bed. But you guys, I could talk about traumas all day long. Like, I absolutely love educating and telling educational stories so that you guys can at least have a little bit of background knowledge when you go to work. Be like, oh, well, like, I remember one of Casey's vlogs and like this is what they do and stuff like that. Because I wish when I was going through like my baby tech days that I had something like this to watch and reference. So definitely have some more stories and stuff to share with you guys. So make sure you watch to the end. But right now, I gotta go to bed.
Sleepless, you're making me sleepless. Yeah. I keep losing in this game of playing pretend. I don't wanna be a 4 a.m. I'm suffocating.
Good morning. Except it's not a good morning. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm not happy right now. I woke up at 2. So that means I only got 5 hours of sleep, and I literally laid in bed and I tried so hard to go back to sleep. But I literally laid there for a full 40 minutes and I just knew it wasn't happening. I'm wide awake. So here we are. Copious amounts of caffeine will be drank today. Also, my shoulder hurts. I like slept on it funny, or maybe it's just from like carrying the weight of the unit on my back. That's a joke, but it's not a joke. Okay. Let's make some breakfast because I need to at least fuel my body with sustenance before I drink all this caffeine. It's 3:30 now, and for an hour, I want to tackle all of this behind me. I recently went on a trip to Florida and have not unpacked yet, so let's be a little productive. I'm literally just gonna set a timer, I think for 45 minutes, and I should be able to get it done. That's kind of like my hack for staying productive, is to truly just do like one task at a time. So I'm literally going to put on a podcast. So I actually love this Straight A nursing podcast. It's really great if you are going into medicine. Tells a lot of stories, very educational, kind of like what I'm aspiring to be. You guys should definitely check them out. So I'm literally gonna put on a podcast episode. I'll find one that's like a little longer, like 40-ish minutes, and once that's done, we'll go to the gym.
I'm way up on the coke and rum. You stay up, hoping I'll come home. Don't wait up, cause I'm way too gone. Don't wait up, wait up. I'm way up on the coke and rum. You stay up, hoping I'll come home. Don't wait up, cause I'm way too gone. Don't wait up, wait up. Tonight I'm in it for the big fun. This time I'm bringing out the big guns. Bang, bang, they wonder, can I get some? What I got's for everyone. Yeah, sit down and get to know the sofa. Stand up when it's taking over. Come here if you was getting sober. What I got's for everyone. Yeah. In the bathroom, in the kitchen, on the balcony is where you'll find me. A galaxy away.
So I am running out the door right now. I just had some night shift IBS, so that was great. Absolutely love that for me. But I have my gym fit on, drinking my look who just walked through the door. Oh my gosh!
Your package.
Oh! Wow! Shoot, I have to. I'm so overwhelmed right now. We gotta go to the gym. We gotta go. We're running late. We're running very late. We needed to leave for work 2 minutes ago. Out of my way!
Yeah, I'm gonna run this tomorrow, okay? Start it up tonight.
That is a big serving of Cheetos. Okay. We need a poppy. Beverage lineup of the evening. Okay. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. What is the spice? Oh shoot, I don't have a jacket. Fudge. We need the badge. We needed to leave 4 minutes ago. What do you think of me? Do you think I am a crazy whirlwind? Am I a hot mess or just a mess? Okay. I will talk to you guys after my shift because I have to speed to work. Hello, you guys. It is 5 p.m. It is the next day. After I got off my shift, I just wanted to shower and go right to sleep because I slept so bad last night. So my previous shift, I only got, I think it was like 5 hours of sleep, but I slept so good today. I literally slept from 8:30 to 5. I feel refreshed. I feel good. That's kind of the thing about night shift. Like, usually I can sleep really well, but sometimes you just have like a bad night of sleep. So I'm not gonna go to the gym today. Usually I will work or collect my thoughts, turn my brain on. Usually I will work out the first night shift, but then the rest of my shifts, I usually don't work out just because it's just a lot on my body. So let me chug a little bit of water here and let's talk more about trauma. So for those of you guys who aren't in EMT school yet and don't really have a lot of experience with trauma, there is actually an entire like trauma algorithm. So you might have heard of your ABCs, meaning airway, breathing, and circulation. So when we get a trauma patient, that is the first thing that we assess: airway, breathing, and circulation. Now for me, I was kind of confused when I first started. What's the difference between airway and breathing? Aren't they the same thing? So to break it down, airway means, is there physically a place for the patient for air to enter their body? That means, are their nares open? And is their mouth open? And then further than that, is the trachea clear of any obstructions? Or if they're a trauma patient, does the trachea have any injuries or abnormalities that air could not enter? Breathing means, is air being physically moved in and out of the body? So trauma patients, they could have like abnormal breathing or whatnot. If they have any sort of blunt force injury, you can actually have what's called flail chest, where a piece of the ribs are broken and the chest is moving asynchronously. So that is the difference between airway and breathing. And then finally, circulation. So number one, is the heart beating? And then is there a central pulse? And then are there distal pulses to extremities? So usually how it will work is EMS will start giving us report, and immediately ACS and the emergency room doctors are going over ABCs. Now, there might also be an acronym that you've heard where it goes CABC. And what it means is that, let's say the patient has a hemorrhage or some sort of injury that is incompatible with life. Well, that injury trumps the airway then. Because if you have an injury that's incompatible with life, it doesn't matter if we fix your airway and we fix your breathing. That injury will kill you. So we have to take care of that first before we move on to the other things. So usually how it works when the patient is rolled in after they've been transferred, we will first secure an airway if it hasn't already been secured. Then we'll make sure the patient can breathe. So if someone isn't already breathing, usually we will go ahead and put them on a BVM for a short period of time. That's a bag valve mask. And if they end up needing a BVM, we go ahead and just intubate them. Then that way that takes care of airway and breathing, because you are securing the airway with the endotracheal tube that goes to the lungs, and then you're putting them on the ventilator to physically move the air. So we have then secured airway and breathing. And then circulation, usually what happens is we are checking for a central pulse. Then we are checking radial pulses, femoral pulses, and then pedal pulses. Really important in traumas that we get like a baseline, and then we always want to reassess that patient because the pathophysiology of those acute traumas can change a lot of things in your body. So we want to know, like, when you came in, did you have a pedal pulse? Now your pedal pulse is weaker. How are those pulses changing? So on and so forth. So after all those things are done, usually then what happens is a fast exam is done, and this is where our ER doctors are ultrasounding your chest and belly. They are checking to see if there is any air that shouldn't be there or any blood that shouldn't be in those cavities. Then after the fast exam is done, usually any injuries or anything like that are examined. We do a full body check. So literally we take off all your clothes. We cut them off. We get you naked. We do a full body check to make sure we are not missing anything. Usually by now it is time to log roll you. So any trauma patient, we always treat them like you could have a potential spinal injury. And so what we do is we secure your C-spine. The primary nurse does this. And then we literally roll you on your side, keeping your spine in alignment to protect you in case you do have a spinal injury. And then we check your entire backside again to make sure we are not missing any injuries. And then usually if you're still awake at this time, the doctor will push on your back and ask you if you are feeling any soreness or any pain. And then we do what is known as the trauma handshake. So usually if you're awake and oriented, the physician will ask you to squeeze your butt cheeks together. If not, the physician will put their finger into your rectum and they are feeling for rectal tone and they are checking for blood in your stool. Why do we do this? It's very important to check for rectal tone because a decrease in rectal tone indicates a spinal cord injury. Also, if there is blood in the rectum, indicates injury. So if the patient is awake somewhat, and usually that happens, we do our absolute best to educate them what's about to happen, why this is necessary. It's usually not pleasant for the patient, but it is very important because any sort of abnormality in rectal tone, that is a significant finding that needs to be addressed immediately. After we've log rolled, taken care of any acute findings or any life threats, then it's usually time to go to the CT scanner because we've examined you externally, but now it's time to get an internal scan to see if there are any physiological abnormalities that we can't see. Also, we will usually get chest x-rays done in the meantime. The x-ray team is usually ready with the portable x-ray. So kind of depends on what the acute care surgery team wants to do. We'll either get x-rays first and then go to the CT scanner or vice versa. So then we usually pan scan the entire patient. So that means you get like a full body scan from head to toe so we can see what's going on. And then usually those findings are addressed in CT. And then depending on your injuries, the ACS surgery team comes up with a care plan for you, whether you're going to go to surgery, whether we're going to consult some specialists, maybe like ortho if you have any sort of broken bones or whatnot, or if you will remain in the ER and you have injuries that the emergency medicine team can address themselves, or if you need to go to surgery. So that is kind of the trauma process in a nutshell. I hope that you guys understood that well. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments below. This, of course, was a very general overview of the trauma process. It does not always go like that. It depends on the patient's injuries, literally. Like there are patients who will roll into the ER and there is such an acute finding that they're literally maybe in the ER for 20 minutes and you only get a third of the way through that whole process I told you guys, and the ACS team says it's time to go to surgery, you know? So, but that is just a broad overview of what you can kind of expect and kind of the path things will go down. I know when I first started in the ER, no one really broke that down for me. So it took a lot of learning and watching and just being like a little sponge and soaking it all in. I hope you guys learned something. We have shift number 3 tonight. I am just kind of gonna chill out. I am still sitting on a YouTube video, you guys. I don't know what to do. I have it edited. I just don't have a thumbnail. I'm very conflicted on what to All right, you guys, we need to have a little chat. First off, if you hear like a weird noise in the background, my dishwasher is running. Hopefully it's not too loud or annoying or anything like that. But I basically didn't vlog my last shift because I just did not feel up to it. So the last shift I went into, it was honestly probably the hardest shift I've ever had, period. You know, I don't want to go into too much detail, just because HIPAA, I want to respect those patients and families and everyone involved. But basically, it was the hardest night I've ever had. I had it was the first time I was ever a part of losing a pediatric patient. It was very rough. And it was actually pediatric patients. It was multiple. I feel like I can't even look at the camera right now. It was the toughest thing I've ever gone through. I genuinely can't even put into words how it felt. I've working in the ER now for 2+ years. Yes, I've lost patients before. It's extremely sad. But it just adds a whole nother layer when they are pediatric. And so that was just something I'd never experienced before. And then to lose multiple in one night it was very hard. It was very, very hard. I could not pick up the camera. I hope you guys can respect that. Maybe I need to make a whole video about losing a patient, because it's not easy. When you work in medicine, it's unfortunately something you have to deal with. I think one of the questions I'll probably get is, how do you cope with something like that? It's really hard. I'm very lucky that I have an amazing support system, but I think the thing that helps me the most to cope with something so awful, with just losing a life, period, is knowing that we did everything we absolutely could. So I'm so lucky to work at a level 1 trauma center and then also a teaching hospital. So we literally have the best of the best care, and we do everything in our absolute power for these patients. And so I think that's kind of what helps me sleep at night. That's what helps me cope with everything, is that we did everything we could for this patient. And if we do everything we can and we don't get the outcome we want, it just wasn't meant to be. You know, and that's the dark side of medicine, is you will not get the outcome you want on every patient. And it's rough, and it's a hard pill to swallow. And that's why it takes a very special people to work in emergency medicine. Because goddamn, you see some amazing things. Like, I have seen patients where you're like, how are we gonna fix them? And then you do it. And it's absolutely brilliant, and it's that aha moment, and it gets you that sparkle in your eyes. And then you have patients that you don't get the outcome you want and you lose, and it's rough. It's real rough. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not trying to end things morbidly. I know I'm very positive most of the time, but I also want to be real with you guys. And this is just how I'm feeling right now. So I will be filming much more ER Tech content. So I hope you guys stick around for that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.